Well, let me ask you about January 6th, drilling down on that and your anger at what was happening in real time.
Yeah.
Despite your anger and everything you were going through, you got on the phone with Mike Pence and expressed concern for his safety. Tell me about that conversation.
The very idea that this mob would be sent by the President of the United States with the claim that they were going to hang Mike Pence should tell the public that, yes, our democracy is at stake. We were taken to an undisclosed location. He was still in the Capitol. I was very concerned because the Capitol was being overridden and the then president, was not doing anything to stop the horror of it all. I was concerned that he said, if I leave, it will attract more attention by my entourage, the caravan with the vice president leaving. I myself wondered if he could even trust the Secret Service to take him to a safe place. I don't know. But I do know that he was in danger in the Capitol, and I wanted to be sure that he was protected. He was the Vice President of the United States. We owe him. I mean, it seems so self-evident that the president should have been making those statements, but he wasn't. How
concerned are you at new testimony, new evidence from the committee just last week and from other sources from some of these trials, that the FBI had early warnings, the Secret Service had warnings, they weren't properly communicated to the leadership? You had your staff hiding under a table for hours with people banging on the door, saying, Nancy, Nancy, where are you, Nancy?
I mean, they were coming for me, too, but the vice president that had a higher profile. Here's the thing. This committee is a committee of this Congress. So it's not a question of, if the Republicans come in, they're dismantling it. No, it's a committee of this Congress. The members who serve on there are members of this Congress. A Democrat is not running again. 2 Republicans are not even running again. So it's about this Congress, and they will get their work done in their own time. I keep my distance from it. But on that day, they were at look, what they did to our democracy is a terrible thing. If people don't value it, I can't answer for that. I know that many people care about how much they're going to pay in taxes, and very wealthy people are pouring money in because they care more about their tax bill than they care about the defense of our country that needs taxes to pay for it. But in terms of what they did, see, I'm number 2 in line to the presidency. That's never going to happen. But nonetheless, I have very strict identification and all the rest because of succession. And I have a lot of security. That the Secret Service would say, we didn't think we had to tell them about her because she's not our responsibility. It's inconsistent with the other aspects of security that I have. But you would think that they would have told us to protect everybody else. And I'll never forgive the people who stormed the Capitol for the trauma that they caused in our young people, our members of the press who were covering that day, our staffers, the maintenance crew, the people who keep the Capitol neat and clean, and the way they disrespected them in language and in poo on the floor and the rest of that. This was a disgrace, and the president instigated an insurrection, refused to stop it, and, as those films show, would not, in a timely fashion, allow the National Guard to come in and stop it. And that is sinful.
Will you support a criminal referral if he refuses to honor a subpoena?
Well, that's going to be up to the committee. Again, I keep my distance.
It's up to the full House to do the criminal referral.
Well, it's up to the committee to make a recommendation if they decide to, and I don't know. I'm not in on that discussion. But the Department of Justice is doing its investigation. But the fact is, we want to talk about the future. Elections are about the future, and it's about our children, the world they'll live in, whether that's a democratic country or an undermined one, a safe planet, whether that's called a hoax to say we want to protect the planet. whether our seniors are taken care of with Medicare, Medicaid. And by the way, Senator Scott and Senator Johnson are joining the leader McCarthy in the speeches that they've made about Medicare and Medicaid. It's not an entitlement. It's an insurance program that people have paid into. And they're treating it as if, well, we could make this optional in the future, or just cut it off and decide in 5 years whether we want to continue to do that.
Let me raise a tough issue for you.
Yeah.
Which is members of your own caucus, Elisa Slotkin and Abigail Spanberger. They're in tough districts. I know they're in tough fights. But they're talking about generational change because all the leadership being over 80, the president is also, if reelected, going to be in that category. So let's talk about what Elisa Slotkin said on Meet the Press. I want to play that for you.
I have been very vocal, including with my own leadership in the House, that we need a new generation. We need new blood, period, across the Democratic Party, in the House, the Senate, and the White House. I think that the country has been saying that.
So what do you say to your own caucus, to these young members? They're, obviously in tough fights, but they want to see the change.
I say just win, baby. Just win. If that's what you have to say to win, fine. And we will not in any way do anything but totally supportive, mobilization-wise, message-wise, money-wise, for those people to win their races. Yes, we need generational change. Of course we do. But in some cases, there's no substitute for experience. And I think that what we have been through with the legislation under the leadership of President Biden, who has done a spectacular job. He's had a better 2 years than most presidents that you can name, certainly in the recent generations. He has, again, with the rescue package, with the most recently Inflation Reduction Package, with the CHIPS and Science Act, with the PACT Act for our veterans, for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. He has had a remarkable record. If that's part of if they're after us, look, just win. That's all I'm saying to people. I just want you to win your races, because nothing less is at stake than our democracy. Nothing less is at stake than our planet. Nothing less is at stake than our freedoms, a woman's right to choose, and as has been indicated by the Republicans, other things. Contraception. Only 9 Republicans voted for us when we said women should have a right to contraception. There's so many things at stake in the election. These are very valued members of Congress. We respect them for what they believe and what they do. We want them to be reelected. I don't have any problem with anybody criticizing me.
Let me ask you one issue of concern to women around the world, and that is what is happening to women in Iran. We just had a climber who is now heading home and competed in South Korea without her head covered, and Lord knows what's going to happen to her. What can America do to stand by the women of Iran?
Well, we can make sure everyone is paying attention to it. We cannot make it have the regime there say, "Oh, America's instigating this," because they don't know their own people. This is organic. It is it's initiated by the women. And we should all take great pride in that. We have issued some sanctions as the U.S., some sanctions there, but I think the bright light has to be shed on it. But how about these women? Aren't they remarkable, risking their lives in a dangerous situation? And then that's really women around the world are being subjected. In Ukraine, children 11 years old are being raped. Moms are being raped in front of their children, in front of their parents. The assault on women in Ukraine is something so horrible. I always wear this ring. This is from Afghanistan, because as a constant, keeping close to my heart the women of Afghanistan for what they're being subjected to there. I mean, women of the world revolt. It was a short story when I was young. It was a long time ago. It was Revolt of Mother, revolt. And these women in Iran are just so remarkable. But again, we don't want it to look as if to give grist to the mill of the leadership there saying this is instigated by America. It isn't. It's their own people. And if they don't want to understand what's happening in their own country with their own women, then they do follow that line at their peril. But we have to keep showing support for them. And whatever, there's going to be an initiative at the United Nations Security Council about this. Let's see if everybody, that there won't be a veto of that at the Security Council condemning them for what they are doing. So we have to use every angle that we can, but again, not to the extent where they'll say this is external rather than indigenous to Iran.
Madam Speaker, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you.